Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of adventure. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, means the world to me. I hope you know in this moment that you are valued, you are loved, and you are appreciated just as you are. We are now on day 6, almost there. Today, the theme centers around abundance beliefs, making sure we have the mindset so as we move forward with this adventure that we're not allowing limiting beliefs to hold us back. If you're listening to this out of order, I want to encourage you to go all the way back to day 1. Go back to the episode. You'll see it says day 1. The adventure begins because these build chronologically. If you've been listening all along the way, I want to applaud you. I want to thank you. You are one of those people who actually puts in the mental energy and the work. You get in alignment before you take action. And for that, you will have good timing. You will enjoy the process. You won't be haphazardly just jumping around. So let me go ahead and get out of the way so we can jump right in. Of course, if you want to take more courses like this one, tomearl.com/courses is where you'll find my time management, leadership development, creative expression, business development, all those kind of courses ready for you. And you'll get 30 days free, tomearl.com/courses. Let me jump out of the way and let's jump right into day 6 of Manifest Your Adventure. Let the theme music drop. Greetings, Tom Earl here. Welcome to day 6 of Manifest Your Adventure. My friends, how exciting is this? This is the last day of workshopping that we have here together. Oh my goodness, this has been such a ride. This has been such an adventure with you going through this course here at the Celebration Academy. It truly brings joy to my heart that you are here participating. All the thought and time and energy and joy that I infused into these past days, the fact that you're experiencing it brings such a smile to my heart. It's hard for me to express, but I hope that you can hear the sincerity and gratitude that I have for you. Hope it's coming across because it really does mean a lot. So, what have we done these past few days? Day 1, we visualized and talked about what do you look like at the beginning of your epic adventure. Day 2, we then talked about what is the epic adventure you're going on? We did our 20-second poem and really gave life and excitement to it. Day 3, do you remember we started off by drawing what have you been taught success looks like? And we reflected upon what do you still believe from that you've been taught what success is? What do you still believe and what do you want to add? What do you want to say success is? Do you remember we did that hot potato where we passed around the hot potato and people had to answer real quick what success looks like? We got out of our thinking mind and allowed your subconscious to answer for you. Day 4, what did we talk about then? We talked about failure. And we worked so that when we hear failure, rather than tension and anxiety coming up, we welcome it like an amazing friend. We got a healthy relationship with failure by remembering there have been so many times in our life where a failure led to an even grander adventure than we would have went on had we experienced success right away. And then we concluded by creating a manifesto of what failure means to you, one that you can check in regularly to remind yourself to embrace and have an empowering relationship with failure. What did we talk about on day 5? That was yesterday. Remember? Yesterday had me all goofy and, just really smiling with joy because we got a chance to visualize what does your perfect personal and your perfect professional day look like. I love activities like that where we just let loose and no constraints. We just really visualize as if everything was possible. And you want to know what the secret is, my friends? Come close. I'm going to whisper it. The secret is everything is possible because you are amazing. And I'm not just saying this to pump you up. I'm not just trying to be positive, thinky, motivational guy. I am being full on serious. This is my serious voice. I hope you can hear this. I'm being real serious right now. That you are amazing. Because think about all the things. I bet there are things in your life that at one time were impossible. At one time you thought, I can never do that. And then guess what? You're doing them every single day like it's nothing. You remember the first time you drove? I remember the first time I drove on a 4-lane highway. We were driving along and my dad said, here, turn right here. I turned right here. And next thing I know, oh my gosh, look at all these cars. I'm merging. This is so scary. Jeez Louise, now I do it like it's nothing. And I bet you have many circumstances like this. Right now I'm recording this class. I remember the first time I ever recorded something on a computer. I thought, what mic do I need? What input? What's an interface? What program should I use? How do I edit it? Now I do it like, it's an everyday thing. I bet you have something like that in your life too. And that's what I mean. I'm not just pumping you up with positive thinking. There's proof in your life that you can accomplish anything and everything you put your mind to. All that it requires is your self-belief. Your belief in yourself and getting yourself excited by what we did yesterday. Day 5, visualizing. Day 6, here we go. I promise you, we are going to talk about bonsai plants and goldfish. I love this introduction. You're going to see what I mean because I'm going to step to the side here and allow us to jump in to the workshop. And then I'll come and I'll wish you peace and blessings before we leave. So without further ado, here we go. What we're going to do next is, do you all know what a bonsai plant is or a bonsai tree?
From the Karate Kid.
Yeah, from the Karate Kid. So it's a tree that's supposed to be big, but isn't intentionally been grown small, right? Or
It's supposed to be big?
Yeah, they're trees that are normally bigger, but they're made to grow small.
So it sounds like it's supposed to be small.
Well, it's intentionally grown small, but it could grow humongous.
So it has the potential to grow big.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kept small.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess it was a semantics thing.
All good. Semantics are fun.
Yeah.
Easier one is goldfish. A goldfish, will grow as big as what you put it in.
Oh.
So if it's a small bowl, it'll stay that
Really?
small. If it gets bigger and bigger, they grow bigger. So
I'm
have
skeptical.
y'all heard this before?
No.
Well, if y'all want me to get technical about it, then technically it's not specifically because of their tank size. But the thing about fish that's most important for us is they're known as indeterminate growers. That means, unlike humans, they grow until they die. Goldfish, that is. But it's their environment that has the greatest impact on if they will continue to grow or if they will become stunted and stop growing. And yes, the size of their tank plays a considerable role in that, which is why I mentioned it. But most importantly, it's the nutrition of the water and the oxygen and circulation in the water, all of which the size of the bowl has a large effect on. So in shorthand, we say that it's the size of the bowl. But if you wanted me to get scientific about it, like I just did.
Sounds like someone who grew up in the Midwest.
Or does leadership development. So our dreams, as you can see where this is going, are very similar. That the environments we're in, when we listen to those environments, we can begin to bonsai our dreams or goldfish our dreams. So we have this idea and we say it and people hear it and they tell you, well, that's really nice, but you should get a backup plan. Or that's really nice, but I think you should get a day job. Or, oh, you want to do that? That's crazy. There's only a few people do that and I've never met them, so it must not be able to be you. and they start to shrink it, and then slowly but surely we start to believe those limiting beliefs ourselves, and people no longer have to tell it to us because we'll tell it to us ourselves even before we let it come out of our mouths. No, that's stupid, and we move on. So what we want to do is just for a few minutes come up with what are 5 bonsai thoughts, or what are 5 goldfish thoughts? In other words, what are maybe a couple limiting beliefs or actions or things we tell ourselves that are going to continue to get in the way of our dreams unless we start to call them out by name? And we won't leave it at that, but why don't we write down 5 things that you're no longer going to tolerate? No longer going to put up with me thinking or doing or saying or feeling what? As usual, if you'd like to pause this and write these down on your own, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to walk you through a brief reflection on this. What are some beliefs you have or assumptions about yourself, or what is some self-talk that you find yourself doing often that holds you back? Maybe it's thoughts about fear, things you are afraid of, whether that is fear of success or fear of failure. What are some beliefs you have that hold you back? Are some of them that you're not enough, that you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough intelligence, you don't have enough connections? What are some bonsai beliefs you have that hold you back, that you are no longer going to tolerate? What are some things you tell yourself that you no longer want to put up with because you know that they hold you back from being and living your highest and greatest self? Give you a couple seconds to think in silence to the music without me prompting you. And we'll take these last couple seconds to think. What are those thoughts that you want to shine a flashlight on? For once we call something by name, it can no longer control us without our being aware of it. So let's call those things out by name, so the rest of this workshop today, we can add tools on how to eliminate these limiting thoughts from our life. Here we go. Let's join the group. Who feels vulnerable enough to share 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of theirs?
I can go. I guess they're more similar than different.
Okay.
But the first one I said was, it is not possible to live my dream. So, like what we've been talking about, like that integration. So that definitely bonsai thought. Time and money are limited. So that sense of like, oh, you have to make hard choices because it's limited. I will compromise on my family or personal life if I act on my passion. So it kind of goes back to the first one of, that tension between the two. So definitely a bonsai. And the last one is I'm not enough. So it could be I'm not ready enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough. Whatever that enough is, I think it definitely comes up because it tends to be like I have to do something or be someone before I can go for my dream, So that's where the I'm not enough plays into.
Thank you, Tasneem. Can we show Tasneem some love? Woo, woo, woo. Adora, would you like to go next?
Sure. I find that most of these are more or less similar to each other, but first limiting belief is you need to find a different job. You can't just survive in show business. It doesn't work. Another one is even if you do want to do show business, you have to be something like an assistant, and it doesn't matter. That's what the level you're good for. Another one is you're only good enough for middle management, even if you leave show business and just look for some sort of other organization and with a limited salary, and just be grateful for what you're getting. And the other one is you're too old for marriage and kids, that ship has already sailed. And then the other one would be, or the last one would be, you're just too different to do well in this industry or this town.
Thank you so much for sharing, Adora. I know this can be a vulnerable conversation, so we really appreciate you sharing this with us.
Definitely very vulnerable, but it's always good to confront your demons.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. You have to know what they are so that you know that they're the wrong sort of thinking, instead of just letting them sit in the back of your mind like there's something rational.
Wonderful. Well, that's the process we're partaking in for today's workshop, so I'm grateful that you appreciate it.
I do. I really do.
Can we snap it up for Adora? Thank you. I can go next, or would you like to go next, Rami?
I want you to go, Tom.
Okay. My 5 are, I'm not enough. Number 2, I don't have enough. Number 3, now is not the time. Number 4, if I do blank, people will no longer love me. And number 5 is, I'm going to be late / I'm running out of time. Can we snap it up for Tom?
Okay, mine are I can't have it all. This is all ego-driven. My work is ephemeral and won't have a lasting impact. I don't deserve success, and I must struggle.
Can we snap it up for Rami? Okay, what I want you to do next is think about or write down what are the usual suspects? What usually is happening, or what are some circumstances or life events or environments, or what are some things that usually go hand in hand with these thoughts? Is there anything that brings them about that you notice is consistent, or where do you see these thoughts coming up in our life? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And you can list it for all of them. You can list it for in general. And so if you're thinking through the limiting beliefs or the bonsai beliefs you wrote down, let's take, for instance, one of mine, that I'm not enough. I want you to think of, if that's one that is yours, we're going to use that as an example. What are some times in our life, or what are some circumstances or moments or things that are said to us that oftentimes when that happens, we feel or we start to think these bonsai beliefs? What are those moments or times that seem to trigger or bring about those limiting beliefs? So think through that a little bit. Think through. Is it sometimes when certain things are said to us that those come up? Or is it connected to failures, like what we talked about a few days ago? That when a failure comes up certain times, that it brings up one of those limiting beliefs? Is it a circumstance? Is it around a certain person? Here we go. Let's join the group. Who would like to share first?
I can go.
Okay.
So we're sharing like what is usually going on when we have these other thoughts, right?
Exactly.
Well, I will say it's usually when there's other people are having success or they're happy. It makes me sound evil.
It doesn't. I think it makes you sound what a lot of people experience.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy for people's success and happiness, but it makes me feel like I don't deserve it. When it feels too easy, that's where the I must struggle thing comes in. And when people hate on me for my achievements, and when nobody seems to get it. What I mean, like my work, where it's like, oh, people People don't understand.
Yes. That makes sense. Thank you, Rami. Thanks for going first. Snaps. Oh, Alexa.
That really scared me.
Sorry.
That really scared me, Alexa.
The ghost in the room.
Alexa just went off in the background. Do you know what? You want to know a synchronicity? I think it's always important to notice when life synchronizes. Is I was listening to Gary Vee talk about how Alexa and voice apps are going to be where the next big entrepreneurial boom is, okay? And I was listening to him on my phone or my headphones. When I came into my house, Alexa picked it up and she was turning on and he was talking about Alexa. And then Alexa, because she was turning on, said, hello. And then Gary said, hello. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So they were talking to each other.
It sounded like it.
He was doing a Q&A, so someone said, hey, Gary, and he went, hello, but he said hello right after she said hello.
And what did Alexa say?
But that's all she says. She turns on and says, hello, and then he said hello
I
back.
don't know. I don't know Alexa.
Yeah, I don't know Alexa either.
When you plug it in, it warms up and then goes, hello. And so I turned it on because I came in, and it warmed up and said hello, and then it switched from my headphones to that at the exact second he said hello. And he was talking about Alexa app.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
And that stuff happens all around us.
Yep.
All the time.
Synchronicity.
Yeah. Based upon our thoughts, which is why we're talking about the thoughts that we want to stop manifesting. Mm-hmm. I can go next. We're going in reverse order, it seems. The I'm not enough happens when I'm being vulnerable or creative. The I don't have enough happens when I'm expanding. The now's not the time happens whenever I'm dreaming big. More specifically, it happens whenever something I want isn't here and I need to see it to believe it. Number 4, if you do it, people will no longer love you. Anytime I'm doing something that's in the opposite of what conformity looks like. Number 5, I'm going to be late. I'm running out of time. Anytime there's a time deadline, this is what I've really been working on. Anytime there's a time deadline and there'll be some perceived consequence of showing up late, I get so panicked. Like, I must be there early. Even when I was setting up for y'all to come, I was like, I'm running out of time. I was like, let that go. That's a limiting belief. If I believe it, then I'll run out of time. But otherwise, when you just like, everything's going to work out, it seems like everything does. Yeah. So, can we snap it up for Tom? If we're doing reverse order, then Adora's next. Adora?
Okay. I think overall, I know most of these things come to mind before I call my mum. Not when she calls me, but before I call her, I think about all these things and I brace myself against them, and then I call her because she's the closest person in the world to me, and I know that my pain is her pain. And if anything, she probably feels it 5 times more than I do. So I feel like she's constantly worried about me. So I think about all these things and I think of rebuttals and I call and then we have a chat. And if any of them come up, I have an answer. So yeah, they definitely all hang out around there. And then they also hang out usually maybe at the end of the month when I'm doing my money or doing my finances. And they'll all kind of come at me and make me think about them. And then usually dismiss them or come up with a new plan to counteract all of them. And also, I think anytime I'm supposed to, a new business or work opportunity comes up that is less than joyful, something that I could do to earn money, but I know I probably will not enjoy. All of them come at me and make me begin to wonder and rethink. And also, sometimes, especially the one about marriage and kids, when I go to some family gatherings, that will sometimes be triggered, or maybe old school reunions and things like that. So yeah.
Thank you, Adora. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
When you were talking about doing your monthly end of the month bills and numbers, that really I was thinking, oh, that's a good one. I was feeling that one too. So thank you for that. I know I was resonating with a lot of the ones you said, and I know a lot of people will too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Snap it up for Adora. And Tasneem?
Woohoo. Well, not woohoo, but
Not yay?
no. Well, for it is not possible to live my dream. I said it comes up like anytime when there are distractions or opportunities or, it's a moment of transition. So it feels like I sometimes have to, it's like I'm redirecting somehow. For time and money limitation, whenever feel overwhelmed or when others question, like, if they say, oh, so how's the book coming along? And I'm like, like it feels like their judgments make me feel more limited or I'm not doing enough. The compromise on my family and personal life if I act on my passion, that also seems to be from either my own expectations or other people's expectations of what that balance should look like. And the other one is I'm not enough when I'm starting something new or I just have a good idea or just an idea. And, I'm wondering whether to go for it or not.
Thank you for sharing, Tasneem. Can we step it up for Tasneem?
Yay.
So as you can tell, we're going through a process. The first thing we're doing is we're naming what those limiting beliefs are because there's a power in naming. It can no longer hide. For instance, when you are in your house and you're laying down and maybe you're home alone and you hear a noise, oh my gosh, what is that? You turn on all the lights and you're like, oh, it's just the fridge. When we shine the spotlight on it, those things that scare us, they can't scare us as much because we now know what it is. So we're naming what it is, but oftentimes they're there subconsciously without us realizing that they're influencing us. So it's helpful to know what are the circumstances that bring these about. And when we're going into one of those circumstances, we are already suspect of our emotions. We're already, this is usually where a limiting belief hangs out. Is what I'm thinking right now one of those limiting beliefs, or is it truly what I normally feel? One great way to know is this a limiting belief is if you feel things like anxiety, if you feel things like resistance to the moment, if you feel things like sadness or anger or jealousy or rage. Those are good indications that a limiting belief is hijacked our higher self. Are y'all with me so far?
Say the last part again. Our limiting belief
has hijacked our higher self.
Oh,
that we're now thinking from a lower vibration, a lower energy place.
I like that.
So that's the first step. The third step is to do some sort of energy shift. There's a few ways to do that. One is to recognize that our brains, as much as we like to believe that they are good at this, all scientific data says that our brains cannot multitask. This can be used to our advantage because when you are holding on to a limiting belief, when you multitask and you switch to a different belief, your brain has to let it go. So there's a couple ways to do this. One is to do something that's going to require your attention. For instance, counting by threes. If you start to count by threes, you're eventually going to get to a higher number that you don't have memorized, and you have to focus on counting by three. And when you do that...
you mean the multiplication?
Yeah. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I'm usually good until I get to around the 70s. Then you have to focus on that.
Yeah.
And when you focus on counting by threes and you start to focus on something that's neutral, your brain will automatically start to let go of that terrible thought. Or I'll go on, I have chess on my phone and I'll turn it to the highest setting. And because it's so hard, I have to concentrate on the chess. So thinking through our life, what are some things like that in the moment I can concentrate on? Or I have poems that I have memorized that I'm a little rusty on. I'll try to do one of the poems. I'll sing a song that requires my attention. Something that you can't do while multitasking that actually takes up your attention. So that one you might not be able to think on now. But think on what are some things you have. But one thing that helps is
Does it need to be a thought or can it be an action?
Can be an action. But it has to be an action that requires your concentration and focus. For instance, going for a walk, running, yes. The reason yoga works so well for a lot of people is because the strenuous activity of the yoga requires your focus on that, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to fall down because this is so hard. So something that's going to require your focus to move away from that negative thought. Another way to do that is to think of when is a time where the opposite has been true. So if one of my limiting beliefs is I'm not enough, when has been a time where I've demonstrated that even though I had this limiting belief, I proved to myself and to the world that I am enough. So why don't we, this is our last 2 steps and we're done for the day. Why don't you write down a time that is the opposite, where you proved the opposite wrong. So if your limiting belief is I'm not enough, when has been a time that has a lot of emotional charge to it where you proved or you demonstrated that you are enough? Does it make sense what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And as we move into step 3 of this process, let's start with pick one of the bonsai beliefs or one of the limiting beliefs that you are no longer going to tolerate. And I want you to think of when was an opposite time that disproved that limiting belief, a time where you demonstrated the opposite of it. So if one is, I'm not enough, when was a time that really resonates with you, that's an example that gives you inspiration, that proves that you are enough, that you have abundance? Or one of mine was time, there's not enough time. What are opportunities that I can think of, or when were situations that demonstrated that there's always enough time, that things always work out? So think through. Pick one of yours. As we're reflecting right now, give you time to think about that. What is at least one of yours where you proved the opposite to be true? And try to think of a time that gives you a lot of inspiration, because you want it to be one that can stop the momentum you're feeling when those disempowering emotions start to gain speed. If you'd like to think on this a little bit longer, hit pause, because otherwise we are going to join the group. And who can share one of them with us?
I did it for the I'm not enough. And so the first thought or moment or experience that came to mind was when I wrote my book. Because before writing, before saying that yes, I seriously didn't think I knew enough. I didn't think I had enough experience. There were so many things, so many not enoughs. But stepping into it and the process of actually writing it. And now when I read it, I'm like, wait, that I wrote that. What? And it's good. It's like deep and it's real and it's authentic. We were talking about authenticity. It's authentic. So I think that's a very tangible reflection of how I am enough, only if I am willing to say yes and be authentic.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tasneem. Can we snap it up for Tasneem?
Yay.
I can jump off that. For the I'm not enough, I wrote my TEDx talk that I had thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do a 15-minute speech and have it memorized? And I'm not facilitating. It's just straight talking. And it's with all these awesome people. I'm so nervous. And nope, did it. Rocked it. Did it twice, in fact.
Woohoo.
And rocked it. So that's mine that, no, I am more than enough.
And it was enough. It was more than enough.
It's more than enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Adora, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. I think for each one of mine, even if I haven't proven it, I know 100 or so stories of people who have proven these limiting beliefs wrong. For example, that directing is not a job. I know people. In fact, I've shadowed people for whom directing has been a great career move and has really just sustained them in so many ways. And they're older now and it still keeps on paying back. And you have to start as an assistant again. I know a bunch of people who didn't have to become an assistant to anybody. In fact, it seems to be a career path that takes them a different route. But I think what some people there are trying to say is that you have to pay your dues. And I agree, you pay your dues, but everyone has to pay their dues in their own way. You're not good. You're only good enough for middle management. One thing I can say about this 45th president is that he really proves that anyone can get a job at the top, regardless of what their qualifications are. So it's a useful reminder every time I might be like, well, I need to get so more experience. I need to do this. I might need to do that. You don't need to. It might help, but look at the world today. You'd probably be doing a much better job than the people at the top if you were in their position, because what you have now is more than enough. And that you're too old for marriage and kids, again, stick your finger out into the world. You'll probably land on a woman who is older than I am, who is just about to get married or got married much later than I am and has a bunch of kids. And you're too different to succeed in this industry. And luckily now I do have role models like Ava DuVernay and similar, who are Stella Meggy, women of color around my age who are doing pretty well for themselves. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate that. I noticed that for a lot of the ones you were sharing that you were using you statements.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, what might those sound like using I statements, taking that ownership with an I statement?
I think every one of the you statements I could just turn into an I statement. So yeah, if we go back, edit it all in, and they're suddenly I's.
Would you be willing to pick one and give it the power of saying it as an I statement?
I can point out a bunch of people who married much older than I am and have a bunch of kids more than I that started late. So
I appreciate your patience with me. If you'd be willing to humor me one more time, what does that sound like as you taking the sole power rather than because they can, so can I? What can it sound like as I am blank or I can blank?
As a purely me statement is I can marry later in life. I can have as many kids as I want.
Because
physically I'm able to, spiritually I'm able to, and financially I'm able to.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you be willing to share one more with us?
Sure. I am more than good enough to be the top boss of any industry that I have an interest in. I have more than enough qualifications to do a really good job.
Thank you so much. So if you're in one of those moments where limiting beliefs usually come up, is that fire enough to stop the negative momentum and instantly project you towards positive momentum of empowering emotions?
I think yes. I find with me, what really reminds me and makes me more able to do things is if I can see it done, then I feel like I can do it. So once I've seen examples of whatever obstacle I'm worried about being overcome, that's it for me. It can be done. I can do it. So keeping my mind on examples of where people are doing this always really, it gives me the fire to be like, I can so be one of those people.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Can we please snap it up for Adora?
Bring it home.
Bring it home.
What I wrote is in response to this is all ego driven and my work is ephemeral and won't have a lasting impact. And I honestly, there are times where people come up to me and tell me that a story I wrote or a performance I did has really touched them and has gotten them to change the way they see something. And that tells me that my work is beyond just me and my ego. And it does have a lasting impact. Even if the experience of taking in my art is ephemeral, it has a lasting impact.
That's amazing. Can we snap it up for Rami? The last step is, what is the opposite of the negative thought? So what is a way to say it in the affirmation? So if it's I'm not enough, what is the affirmation thought?
I am enough.
Yeah.
I am enough. I'm more than enough. So what I'd like you to do on this last 5 is write down the opposite thought that is actually more in line with your energy. It's downstream, it's flowing, it's your higher self for each of the ones that you have. By this point, you're an expert at these visualization exercises. In fact, this is going to be our last visualization exercise for this course. And so this last time, of course, pause me if you'd like to do this on your own. Otherwise, here we go. Thinking through the 5 limiting beliefs or the 5 bonsai beliefs that you had written down, what is a way you can say them that demonstrates your recognition of the abundance, of the inner power you have, of that personal magic? For example, the one we used is I'm not enough. Different way to say that for me, uniquely the way I say that, is that I am always, forever manifesting my abundance. What is a unique way you can express each of the limiting beliefs or each of the bonsai beliefs that you wrote down in your own unique way, and to do so in a way that gives you a feeling of excitement, a feeling of empowerment, that you can, for instance, maybe on your morning walk, say to yourself and get yourself excited. Give you a few more seconds here to think of or to write down or to say in your mind the opposite belief. And rather than just saying it as a opposite, instead let's phrase it as an abundance belief. Feel free to pause this if you'd like to spend a little more time, because otherwise we are about to join the group. Okay, I see that everyone's done. And I'm aware, want to respect everyone's time, so I recognize we actually only have time for one person to share out. So who would we like to have go? Everybody's pointing at the other person. It's very friendly of y'all to support each other and nominate someone. Looks like we voted on Adora. Okay, Adora, would you be willing to share, or what do you have written down for your affirming beliefs?
Okay. I think my affirmation is it can be done, and I am the one who will do it. And it has been done. I am the one who is going to do it again. So that is what I need to just keep remembering and keep affirming to myself, and I will. Does the person have 2 heads who did this? They don't. So there's absolutely no reason why I can't just do it again.
Thank you so much. What is it about seeing someone else do it that brings so much inspiration to you?
I think for me, it might be a little bit of a competitive edge that wakes up my natural laziness, that makes me definitely want to be one amongst equals. So that will spur me on to it. And also, it can give me a bit of a roadmap. I think it's the same reason why lots of people find role models helpful. You can find enough similarities between you that you can use their footsteps as a guide. So I think that is one of those things. And also, it doesn't need my imagination to be stretched as much as never having seen it done. Once I've seen it done, and I know it can be done, my imagination can easily come up with a bunch of ways how it was done.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like it might be helpful to create a process or periodically setting aside intentional time to investigate and look up inspiring people who are within the areas that you are looking to improve upon and excel in.
Absolutely.
Do you have one like that?
I do. I think I'm constantly, like most people, looking out for stories that give me a chance to see a role model or an example of something. And where there isn't necessarily, my imagination can sometimes take me there. For example, some of these little videos I've been doing where something just comes to me. They don't necessarily have to be related. The only thing that's related is my perspective, and I'll go off and just do them. But in the meantime, I look out for the Ava DuVernays and the Stella Meggies and articles from Essence and other magazines where these people are celebrated, and it raises my awareness of them and what they're doing.
Thank you, Adora.
Thank you, Tom.
Can we snap it up for Adora, please?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Let's refresh. Let's go back over these steps. The first step is that you recognize you have a limiting belief, usually based upon the usual suspects of what brings them about. You do something to shift the energy by either counting by threes or thinking of a time that you have done the opposite. And lastly, step 4, which we have just completed, is to move into saying the thought as an affirmation or as an abundance statement. And step 4 is important too, to regularly check in on, because as we've already talked about, the mind is a muscle. And there are certain grooves or certain ways of thinking that can become habitual. And when those usual suspects or something like that comes up, if we have a habit of response, often we fall into that habit right away. And if instead, during those times where we are calm, or during those times where we're meditating or going for a walk or something, if we're practicing step 4, if we're time and time again saying those positive affirmations or saying the thought as an abundance statement, if we do that over and over again, and instead of just saying it as a words in your head, instead if we say it in a way where we feel it as an excitement, where we feel it as energy within our bodies, where we bring our whole essence into it and we get a positive emotional response out of ourselves when we say it, the more and more we do that, we can actually rechange the muscles of the mind or the pathways of the mind, so that instead that is the belief that we go to during those times that become the usual suspects. So next time, for instance, for me with being late, usually when I'm late, time scarcity comes up for me, and the I don't have enough time comes up. But the more and more I found in my life that I'm leaning into that I have enough time to do everything I always want to do. And in fact, everything always aligns in my life. So sometimes I might forget my keys, and where I used to think, oh, it's going to make me late. Instead, I recognize, grabbing my keys, because that extra delay is aligning the synchronicity in my life. And the more and more I think that, and I get emotional responses from it, when those moments come up where I'm late, I tap into automatically the abundance thought rather than the scarcity thought. And so that's the 4-step process that I want to recommend that you practice for overcoming our bonsai beliefs and instead moving into that abundance mindset. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Let's snap it up for this process we just went through, please.
Woohoo.
Woo-hoo. To take us home, to close us out, this one's called G Unit.
Dr. G Unit?
No doctor.
Aw, that's so pretty.
G Unit, also known as Grandma Unit. And that's because my grandma used to always give us Beanie Babies as gifts. So it reminds me of my grandma, and we used to call her G Unit. That was her nickname. So if you could just share one word, one affirmation, one thought to close us out for the day, we would greatly appreciate that.
An affirmation for anyone in particular?
For yourself, for the workshop, one way you'd like to close us out. Rami, would you like to go first?
Inspired.
Inspired. Thank you, Rami. I'm going to pass it to Adora.
Here you go, Adora.
Thank you, Rami. That was awesome. I'd probably echo that, but I think my thought would be, I'm the one who's doing it.
Thank you, Adora.
Thank you.
Thank
Adora.
you.
Destiny.
Open.
It's wonderful.
Tom.
And mine is humbled.
Yay.
I feel humbled that all three of you, you're great minds, and all the wonderful things you're doing in the world, that you came together with me on this to walk us through this workshop. And humbled because I trust in the universe and the energy and synchronicity that whoever needs to hear this will hear it exactly at the right time. And something that each and every single one of us said will be just what they needed to hear in that moment. And they will then pass that on and say something just at the right moment for someone else. And there's no knowing what that impact and ripple effect will have. And for that, I am grateful and humbled. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
My
Tom,
pleasure.
for leading us through this and inspiring us and opening us and humbling us.
My pleasure.
Well said, Tasneem.
Thank you. I really appreciate all of you. Once again, thank you all. Yes, indeed, my friends. And so concludes day 6 of Manifest Your Adventure. Listening to Tasneem and everyone share at the end appreciation and gratitude really has me feeling kind of choked up and really just feeling appreciative of this process. As I mentioned, it was an idea and intention, a dream I have. And to see it manifest like this, I'm living my adventure as we're talking about manifesting yours. And you know that feeling you get as you're standing on the edge, looking back and seeing all that led to this moment and just smiling. That's what I'm feeling right now. And you have been there every step of the way with me. Look at you. As I said right away on day 2, I knew when you made it to day 2 and you kept going, I knew that you were the kind of person who follows through on your intentions, who listens to their inner guidance system, to all of the hints and intuitions and whims and songs and stories that you hear coming to you from the inside and living your truth. And I want to thank you for that. I want to applaud you. I want to recognize this journey we took. Day 1, we talked about what do you look like at the start of your adventure. We recognized that you have all of the gifts, resourcefulness, tools, strengths, experiences, everything you need to take the step 1 of your journey of this adventure. We talked about that. We said, what do you look like? We got really excited, had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. And then we moved into day 2 where we gave it some substance. We said, what is that adventure that you are stepping into? We had a lot of fun through that. We expressed what it looks like, a lot of smiles, a lot of, oh, that's what I was thinking. And then we moved into day 3. Day 3, we had a really intentional conversation on what is success to you, rather than just operating on the programming of what our culture says success is. Instead, going within and drawing your own picture of this is what success is for me, so that you are moving to the rhythm of your drum rather than dancing to someone else's tune of what is success. After we had that conversation of what is success to you, we then had a vulnerable and intimate conversation on failure, where we created for ourselves an empowering story of failure, where we recognize failure is our friend. It is a part of the process. And we created a manifesto, an emotional time capsule that you could open anytime you needed a reminder of this empowering feeling you were experiencing of what is failure. Then we moved into day 5. I'm not saying I have a favorite day. That'd be like saying which finger do I like the best. I think they're all awesome. What I'm saying is I really love that day. Day 5 is so much fun because we really got to explore the juice of our vision, where we said, what does your dream day look like? As Rami said, he really enjoyed that as well. It really resonated with me. And then we said, what does your perfect professional day look like? We got that excitement. We started those desires. We started that intentionality. We are paving the pathway of this adventure. We are manifesting one intention at a time, and we created some emotionally empowering ones. Lastly, what did we do today? We talked about how potentially we have some bonsai beliefs or some limiting beliefs that could hold us back from manifesting our adventure. And we went through this 4-step process of naming them, first shining a light so they can no longer hide in the dark, calling them by name, and going through and seeing how there are usual suspects or moments that bring about these limiting beliefs. Next, we moved into step 3, where we talked about doing some sort of momentum shift, where when the energy comes that is pushing us towards these negative and disempowering emotions, ones we can use to shift the momentum towards an empowering perspective. Lastly, step 4, one we can use to cultivate an empowering mindset, where we said, what is an abundance statement that we can use in place of this limiting belief? And we concluded by each sharing an affirmation for this experience. My friends, we're not done yet. Tomorrow, day 7, we are going to conclude by forming some habits, practices, and rituals that you can put in place to create a systemic and to create a lifestyle and a life that continues to manifest your adventure every day, every week, every month. My friends, this has been an amazing day 6. As always, I hope you are creating something wonderful and beautiful today. I hope you are thinking of something you are grateful for. I hope you're drinking lots of water and nourishing your body and soul, because you are amazing. You are exactly where you need to be, and I appreciate you. As always, I'm wishing you peace and blessings. Hey, Tom Earl here again. Just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Celebration. Your support, your energy means the world to me. Hey, if you have 2 seconds, I would be honored if you were to go over to wherever you're listening to your podcast and review this podcast. 5 stars, 1 million stars, somewhere between that range would be very much appreciated. You're the absolute best. I love you. And if you're interested in more courses that I have to offer, just head to tomearl.com/courses, and you can sign up for 30 days free to our online school. You're the best, my friends. Looking forward to you joining us next week. All right. Peace and blessings. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.